Hey, it's your girl Nicole, and you're listening to the Risers Hub podcast where wellness, empowerment, and personal growth live. I hope everyone out there is taking good care of themselves, allowing yourself to unplug when necessary, and taking each day, moment, and hour at a time. The beginning of this year has been a lot for many of us, and when we get stressed, many of us tend to eat. I know when I'm reaching for that stress snack, it's not necessarily an apple or banana. So today, let's tackle another one of my favorite topics, food and eating. Now, today's topic is about healthy eating. And before you start thinking, what does this skinny little woman have to tell me about eating? Please bear with me and don't worry. This conversation is about how eating healthy can be fun, satisfying, and most importantly, sustainable. And I care about your health as much as I care about mine. So I'm really excited to have back a very special guest and friend, Alexandra Brown. She's a registered dietitian, nutritionist, a licensed dietitian, nutritionist, and she holds a master's of science degree. Alexandra is the founder of Simple Source Nutrition, where she helps individuals create a balanced and realistic approach to food. And she does an amazing job with her community, educating young and old about the importance of good nutrition. So welcome back, Alexandra.
Hi, thank you. Glad to be back.
I'm so happy you're here. So let's first talk about the perception of eating healthy. Many people think you have to sacrifice flavor, the joy of eating, or even their cultural traditions. And I don't think that's true. What do you think?
I completely agree. You do not have to sacrifice joy for food. I feel if anything, joy and food go together.
Yes.
So it's really about figuring out what works for you.
Okay. So we're going to break it down. Like, what does healthy eating actually mean to a nutritionist like you, a dietitian nutritionist like you?
So healthy eating to me really starts with what your personal needs are. So really understanding who you are as a person, like your activity level, maybe your culture, and really figuring it out from there. And then also to the foundation is really having a balance of different food groups and different macronutrients. So making sure that you're getting in your fruits, your vegetables, your carbs, your protein, and then in some cases, even dairy too. So that's kind of the two things that we want to look at when we're talking about the foundation of eating is your personal needs, but also considering that my plate and all of the nutrients that has to offer and combining those two things and thought processes to create a healthy diet for yourself.
So I heard you use the word macronutrients. So can you explain the difference between macro and micronutrients?
So macronutrients are your carbs, proteins, and fats. So those are the three major macronutrients. But micronutrients are things like iron, those zinc, like those are more of your micronutrients.
And that's where it gets personalized because someone might be low in iron and they're going to need that micronutrient, whereas someone might need more calcium or things like that. And that's what you mean by the micronutrients, right?
Exactly. It's
Okay.
really individualized because some people are just more likely to may have more iron source than someone else. Also, too, say if you live in a different part of the country or the different part of the world, you may have to supplement certain things. For instance, like vitamin D. Some people have to do that as opposed to if you live in a more sunny area, you might not have to supplement with that.
Yes, I know since I've moved to the East Coast, I've needed more vitamins when I lived over to the West Coast, and that seasonal depression is real. Like it's
Yes.
real. You guys, you have to take care of yourself. So now let's shift culture. How does someone navigate healthy eating when their traditional food might not fit, the typical healthy standard, or they don't think that it does?
So that's a key part that you said right there. It's like people don't think that their foods can be healthy, but I actually think otherwise. I think you really have to look at the foundation and the base of the ingredients that you are using, and then realizing it's not those base ingredients that are what is the unhealthy thing or the issue. It's
Mhm.
really the things that you're adding to it. So adding a lot of salt or sugar to those foods is what can cause more more fats or more a higher amount of say bad cholesterol.
Mhm.
Those are the things that do that are the things that we add on top of it, not the food themselves in most cases.
I remember growing up and when my mom realized, she had these 3 kids and she was trying to, cook healthier for us, and the only way she knew how to cook was how my grandmother cooked, and she was an excellent cook, but she used back then what they call, like, Crisco and a lot of lard, a lot of salt, and so what my mom did is she eliminated that and I think I said this before in a previous podcast. It took a minute because we were like, okay, you need to add some of that fat because the flavor and the salt were like gone. But what she learned how to do was to add like peppers and onions and a little garlic and spices that I think back then was called was it no dash or dash something where it was just more it was more flavor, but there was less of the sodium and the salt. And so we didn't lose the way that we ate. We still ate very similar foods that my grandmother would cook, but my mom changed it to where we finally got to the point of satisfaction because she learned how to like add, natural flavors into her food and we never really skipped a beat, but we were eating healthier and she wanted to be healthier herself. And so now that I now that I've grown up, I've had my kids, I've learned how to even go that extra mile and add, more greens, saute them as opposed to like boiling them in, pork, things like that, and like getting rid of certain meats that are not necessarily healthy for us. So I do believe in healthy eating, no matter what your traditional base is, or like you said, your basic foundation is as far as your tradition and your culture, you can change it because there's so many natural flavors out there that you can, add to your food to give you that flavor and that gusto that we like to taste when we're eating. So yeah.
That makes
So yeah, so if for someone who feels like they're totally overwhelmed, they want to start eating healthy, and they're trying to, but they always fall short. What can you advise to them to just get started?
so people that are feeling like, man, I'm struggling with this. I don't know where to start. I'm feeling overwhelmed. There's so much information out there that you are not alone because there is a lot of information out there. So, what I recommend starting with is first identifying what your goal is and focusing maybe on a small goal. So, it could be losing 5 pounds, or it could be just eating more fruits and vegetables. So, really trying to make very small goals can be what you need to be able to achieve them. And also, to finding an accountability partner, I think can be really helpful because that's kind of what it sounded like you had in your household to an extent. It's like the reason your mom cooked a certain way was because she wanted herself and her kids to eat healthy. The reason you did it is so you could eat healthy and then also your kids. So that's kind of your accountability partner, even though you don't really think about it like that. So I think that's something that everybody could do is, think about themselves, but also find someone else to keep them accountable or find someone else that they can provide for too in terms of healthy eating options. So that can be a small step that you can do is make little small goals that you can reach towards and then also finding some type of accountability to help you reach your goals.
Okay, and then as a nutritionist, what are your steps when you work with a client? Like they find you, they come to you, they tell you what their needs are. And let's just start with someone who might be, a diabetic and, they're just starting a new workout, but they know that they do understand the importance of fueling their bodies the right way in order for them to move forward because they've been told by their doctor. So how would you start with someone like that?
So someone that is a diabetic, I would first start with half of your plate vegetables. Even if they don't understand the entire reason as to why, I think that can really just be a building block for everything. because when you have half of your plate vegetables, you're automatically gonna limit the amount of carbs you have. When you have half your plate veggies, you're automatically going to get more vitamin K, vitamin A, vitamin C, folate. So when you have half of your plate veggies, that is just going to set you up for success throughout your healthy eating journey.
Okay. So I'm gonna be a devil's advocate. Yes, I'm a diabetic. Yes, the doctor told me that I have to reduce my carbs, but putting half of my plate as nothing but vegetables, I don't like vegetables. I mean, how can I start this not so aggressively?
Mm. What is your favorite vegetable that you least dislike? And then maybe only having that once every day
Okay.
for maybe a week and starting there and
Okay.
seeing, hey, like, okay, I kind of like broccoli. And then having that conversation with that person. All right, what do you like about broccoli? What don't you like about broccoli? Somebody could say, well, I just don't like the way it's seasoned. Oh, well, how can we make it more fun? How can we add maybe some paprika or garlic or onion powder to it to make it taste better? And even so, somebody could be like, well, there's no salt in it, and I need salt for it to taste better. All right, let's add the salt. If that's what's going to get you to maybe eat a little bit of broccoli, we can add a little bit of salt. But the key is you're going to have to measure that salt out to see how much you're going to put in there. So having people really visualize and connect with what they're doing in terms of their food is very key. So we're further developing that relationship with food. A lot of us eat very mindlessly and just do what we've been told, which is a form of somewhat mindlessness, or we buy a lot of food out to eat and just taking whatever somebody gives us. So when we're measuring things out, for instance, like with that salt on our broccoli, at least we're going to be more aware of what we're doing there. So, high level, starting really small with one vegetable every day throughout the week can be a way to slowly incorporate more and more veggies into our diet and really just open our eyes to how we can integrate our culture as well as things that we're used to with health.
Oh, I love that. I love that a lot. And it's cool because like you said, like they can start exploring other vegetables. Like if they start eating broccoli every day, they're going to eventually get sick of it. And so hopefully, that'll get them to like try something new and try something different. I absolutely love that. So we're going to later on break down the proteins, the carbs and all that other stuff. And one thing that Alexandra was really nice to help me with is I have a list of proteins and carbs and minerals and things that are really healthy for people to eat. It's on the website, therisershub.com. And she went through it, she combed through it, and she was like, take this out, put this in. And so if you need to have somewhere to start, there's this list that I have that you can start. It's been certified by a nutritionist and you can pick and choose on that list what you like and what you don't like, and then just start there and start building your meals off of that. So it's really cool. Now, I want to share something personal that I just finished. I just finished a 40-day fast, and it was part of a group. And each week we had to eliminate something from our diet. And I shared this with Alexandra, and I really want to hear what she has to say about it once I explain this whole fast. I was going through some things personally that nothing else was really working. And so I decided to do this fast, and I decided that I wanted to try to do something for 40 days straight to kind of discipline myself and to do something a little bit challenging to see if I can get through it because I know that I can be hard-headed sometimes. And so I'm really excited. It ended on Friday, and these are the restrictions that it started with. The very first week, no sweets and sugar, no caffeine. And then we slowly moved into no meat, no dairy, and no processed foods. And let me tell you, there was times it got really tough and I wasn't a nice person because I just wanted a chocolate chip cookie. But along with the fast, there was a financial fast and there was also a media fast. So I would say I did good. I'd give myself a B minus because I had to get on social media to post for the Risers hat, but then I get caught up in something else. So that part I still have to work on. But what I learned from this fast, let's go back to the eating, is that I learned about my relationship with food. Because when I'm stressed, I crave salty things. And when I'm happy, I want something really sweet like a chocolate chip cookie or apple pie. And when I'm down, depending on the emotion and what's going on, I either don't want anything at all or I want everything in sight. And so I guess my question is to you is when people start restricting things from their diets, what do you suggest? And I know that I did a fast, so that's kind of the extreme. But when people start getting on these diets and, oh, it's a no carb diet, it's a no protein diet, it's a no iron diet, like, how do you feel about those?
So let me clarify. So how do I feel about diets that involve restrictions?
hmm That's the only question right now, only because, fasting is something completely different. And I know that when some people are on a fast like this, they use it as a diet. So that's the only reason why I'm like using that as an example. Um, and for me, like even though I had those restrictions, I did cook food for myself every single day, but I didn't have, the sweets, I didn't have the dairy, I didn't have the meat. And I had to find my nutrition in other places. That kind of answers what you talked about earlier when like a diabetic doesn't want to eat vegetables. So um yeah, what is your opinion on a restricted diet? And then what do you think about the fast that I just completed?
So my opinions on restricted diets, they're not a bad thing because it depends on what the restriction is and how long you are doing the restriction. People
Mhm.
do restrictions for a variety of reasons, religious reasons, health reasons, or just personal reasons in general. So restrictions isn't, again, yeah, per se a bad thing. But like you said, it's important to really find ways to replace those nutrients that you may be losing. And that is key.
Mhm.
So supplementation is the first thing that does come to my mind. So say if you're not eating, say, a lot of carbohydrates, you may be missing out on vitamin B because I feel like a lot of vitamin B minerals and vitamins are within carbs, they're within cereal, they're within pasta, etc. So having supplements that you take daily could be something that helps with that. And then for something like let's say how you said, okay, no caffeine, you may have to hydrate more. Or some people, to get more energy, they'll take something like iron because they're iron deficient and they don't realize it. So they're drinking all this caffeine to make up for that. So it's really sitting down and understanding, okay, so I am lowering down this nutrient. So what do I need to kick up on? And one thing that definitely comes to my mind is water. So a lot of us do not get the water that we need, and water is important for delivering certain vitamins and minerals just throughout our body. And so if you are cutting down on a certain food group, you're going to need more water to make the food groups that you are eating do their job even better.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And what was interesting about getting rid of the caffeine was I was a little nervous because I love my green tea every single morning. But what I learned about that, and this might be a little bit too personal for some people, but I'm going to share it anyway, is that when I got off the caffeine, the first week was really hard because you do have that bolt of energy in the morning and you're ready to tackle the day. But then once I got to that week and I was drinking herbal tea, I have this issue, as you know, I'm a runner and I was having problems like, keeping stuff in. Okay, I'm just gonna say that. And so what I did is I decided since I was on this fast, I said, let me just eliminate the tea altogether because I knew I have issues if I drink too much coffee. And I know I have issues if I drink too much caffeinated tea. And so I didn't understand why, like, after a week of getting rid of the caffeine, going into a week and a half, 2 weeks, I still have this issue. So I got rid of tea altogether. And so I started with just ginger, like raw ginger, cutting it up and using it in my hot water. And it went away like within a week. And so I was able to like not only get more hydrated because I'm not like, I think tea kind of messes with the hydration part of it as well and coffee, but I was getting more hydrated and I wasn't like losing things when I was running, letting things slip. And it was so much better. And so I think from this fast, and I want to talk about something else you mentioned too, but from this fast, I realized that, if I can continue with the ginger tea, I'm sorry, the ginger water and add maybe a little honey to it, that'll be my thing. And like I said, I've been doing this for 40 days now. I don't need the caffeine because I'm getting energy from other places. That brings me to, and I know I'm kind of jumping back and forth, but there's something that you said earlier, and it was about mindful eating, but you actually defined it backwards because you were talking about mindless eating. And it's when someone tells you what to do, you're just not thinking about it, you're just doing it. So tell us what mindful eating is.
Mindful eating is understanding where your food comes from and also understand how your food affects you. And then the third part is being in tune with the experience as you're consuming that food. So those are the three key areas that I encourage people to focus on when we're talking about mindful eating. So let's think about breakfast this morning. So for breakfast this morning, I had oatmeal, cinnamon with some cranberries. So really thinking about, okay, where did those oats come from? Who grew those oats? And think about the process in which the oats got to the manufacturer and the processor and then went to the grocery store. I went to the grocery store and never picked it up and brought it home. So that entire process is just really cool, and it makes you a little bit more gracious for the food that is coming to you because food just doesn't pop out of nowhere. Like, if you talk to little kids, you're like, "Where does food come from?" And they go, "The grocery store," and that's not true. So it's like we have to remind ourselves the root at which something came to us. I think that makes us more appreciative of food in itself. And then
Mhm.
from there, when we really think about, okay, is this food going to benefit me? What do oats have? Oats have fiber. Fiber is going to benefit me. It has carbs. Carbs is going to benefit my brain, going to give me energy throughout the day. The cranberries, it's fruit. So it has some vitamin C in there, even though it is dried fruit. So that's why it's going to benefit me. And then from there, when I'm actually sitting down, being present with my meal, eating it, not being too distracted by my phone, not being too distracted by the things around me. I think that just really creates just a stream of gratitude. And when you have that gratitude and that peace of mind, it overall lowers stress levels. It is going to make you feel more energized throughout the day. So it's all really connected in terms of mindful eating. It's not just about the food, but it's also about the process. Another example I'll give is how you're saying that your grandmother made really good food, but it had lard in it. Did you say lard?
Yeah, lard. That's
Lard?
what they used to call it, lard.
It had lard in it.
Crisco grease.
All of those things, and that reminds me of my experience with Mama Dia, like, very processed food, but within that all the processed food, we had an amazing experience together. We were cooking in the kitchen. All the family was eating around the table together. We were laughing. We were praying together. All of those things that create just an environment of love and peace of mind. So, if we are able to do that with healthy food or more nourishing food, nutrient dense food, that is going to make the experience even better.
I absolutely love that, and I 100% agree. I don't think that we don't have to take culture out of healthy eating. We just don't. And also too, you made me think about, I wish people really knew how most of the food that's in the grocery stores are processed
Mhm.
before it even gets to the store. I remember driving in downtown LA, when I was, doing my own clothing line and stuff and looking for fabrics and everything, and I got lost in some part of downtown, and they were literally bringing in food to take to stores, and when I saw how they were just tossing the food around, and I'm talking about, like, your lettuce and your tomatoes and your fruits and vegetables, and knowing where that came from and how it got there, I was just like, "Man," like, it made me think of a different way of, like, purchasing my food and cleaning my food, because you don't know where it's been, and so for me And I know that not everybody can do this. What I've learned through my journey of fasting is that, if you're getting, a full meal a day, no matter what it is, no matter how healthy or unhealthy it is a privilege for us to eat the way that we're eating. Because when it came down to beans and rice every day for me and maybe a vegetable, and knowing how I was eating before, it's just so different, and you are so privileged to have a burger and fries and enjoy that experience. So, I really believe in mindful eating, and I really also believe in mindful grocery shopping as well, looking at what you're buying and what you're putting in your food and thinking of different ways. Just get creative with it. It's like art. Get creative with how you're going to season it. It's fun, especially like you said, if it's your whole family in the kitchen doing it, have fun and experiment together. So before we go, I do want to break down. We talked about proteins and carbs and good fats. And so I'm going to talk about the I want to talk about protein, and I want you to give us examples of maybe good sources of proteins. Because right now, protein is essential for muscle repair, immune function, and overall health. So, talk a little bit about proteins and why they're important.
Protein, like you said, very important for overall health. So, first, it's really great to help you feel full. Protein just has that component in it that makes you feel like very satisfied. If you've ever had a meal and you're like, man, I'm still hungry, for instance, like breakfast a lot of the times, and you're still hungry after maybe you've had breakfast, it's possibly because you've missed out on a protein. So that's one reason that it's really helpful. Another reason is, say, like you mentioned, with somebody that may have diabetes, protein helps level out your blood sugar levels. So even if you don't have diabetes, you want to prevent your spikes in blood sugar, eating protein levels that out. And you can do it with a variety of protein. You can do it with animal-based protein or a plant-based protein. Animal-based protein is great because it just has more bioavailability in terms of just like the nutrients and how it acts in your body. So that's why it's really good. But on the other end, plant-based protein is really great because it's low calorie in most cases, less fat, and it still has a great source of vitamins and minerals. You just have to eat more plant-based protein than you do actual protein. So those are a few reasons as to why protein is good and why you want to still balance your plant-based and your animal-based proteins.
Okay. And then, okay, so we're going to move to carbohydrates. And carbohydrates, that's the body's primary energy source. So let's talk about that.
So, carbs are really great for us. Like you said, it's our primary source of energy. A lot of people have a tendency to want to cut out carbohydrates, which I do not encourage because carbohydrates are really just the building block of glucose. That's like what keeps you going. That's what your brain and your body is running on, is that glucose, and that's what carbohydrates provide. Especially if you are getting back into the gym, or even if you've been in the gym, carbohydrates are really essential for energy levels. So before you're exercising, you need to have carbs, and then after you're exercising, you need to have carbs and protein to replenish what you just lost. So, if you were thinking about going on a low carb diet, please be mindful about how low carb you go. And then, if anything, first just focus on having more whole grains, and that is going to help you reach your goals and eliminate more white breads and more processed pastas and white rice to introduce more of that fiber into your diet with the whole grains within the carbohydrates.
And when you say white breads, like what's the difference between like a white bread and then, whole wheat or whole grain bread?
So your whole grain bread is going to have the entire pretty much whole grain bread has endosperm, the germ, and another part that I'm forgetting that makes up a whole grain.
Mhm.
So those things have fiber in them, and what it really does do, it helps, say, if you're eating something, it helps break that down a lot easier
Right.
in terms of just digestion. Also, too, fiber is really great for overall just when you're thinking about like bowels, your bowel movements and things and whatnot, like it helps with overall flow of your body. And then also fiber is a good component because it helps with gut health as well. And we know fiber, probiotics, those things are good for gut health. And so when you have a better gut microbiome, that is really good for brain health too. There's something called the gut brain axis. The gut brain axis is something that has been demonstrated when your gut health is better, your brain health has been showed to be better too, which is then connected to stress. It's connected to limiting your risks of things like Alzheimer's, dementia, and then also alongside with your brain health, you're more likely to have some hormone regulation there as well. So it's all really connected and crazy how just one thing like fiber really brings your body back into balance.
I love that. I love that. And I do agree with having carbs before you train and carbs and proteins after you train because I've made a lot of mistakes over the years, and when I don't have my carbs before I train, the training session does not go. It does not go well. So you're exactly right about that. So fats, not all fats are bad. So let's talk about the healthy fats like the nuts, the seeds, avocados, and and how does that help as well?
So unsaturated fats are really great for us. So like you mentioned, things like avocados, olive oil, almonds, walnuts, cashews, those things have a great amount of unsaturated fats in there. And that's really important in terms of things like hormone regulation, right? Fats are the key to that. So when anybody's thinking about cutting out their fats, we want to think about, okay, as I am getting older, it's less likely that my body can regulate itself. It's not less likely, but it's not going to, the hormone regulation just looks different as you get older. And
Yes.
that is one of the things that can help you better regulate things like estrogen levels. So, having more healthy fats into your diet is going to be really important there. And then also fats include a lot of good nutrients in there. Like for instance, a fat like omega-3 fatty acids, like that's really
Mhm.
important in terms of brain health and just health in general.
So explain trans fats and excessive saturated fats because those are the things that we all love, but they're not good for us.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie.
So, I would definitely I would stay away. My recommendation as a dietitian is to stay away from trans fats. When I look at food labels, I rarely even see trans fats anymore. I feel like 10 years ago, definitely trans fats were in more places, so if you do see them, I would just avoid them.
Stay away.
Yes, but saturated fats, that is a different molecule, and they're gonna be a little better. They're not as bad as trans fats. So, saturated
Gotcha.
fats may be something like chocolate, like dark chocolate has saturated fat in there,
Oh, okay.
but it's not going to be as bad for us or something like butter, right? So butter does offer benefits in terms of the taste. However, we do want to watch because too many saturated fats is not good for our bodies. It may raise bad cholesterol levels, so
Okay.
we want to it could raise our LDL cholesterol and we want our LDL cholesterol to be low and we want our HDL cholesterol, which is good, to be higher. And when you add too much saturated fats in there, it could raise your bad cholesterol and
Mhm.
lower your good cholesterol.
Okay. And then the last one is essential minerals and vitamins. And I know these are crucial for everything from bone health to energy production. So talk about essential minerals and vitamins.
So, one thing we briefly discussed earlier is something like vitamin D, calcium. Those are key things that we want to have in our diet, especially together because vitamin D and calcium work better together in terms of absorption. And then also, it's important because as you get older, you're more likely to have things like lower estrogen levels, you're more likely to have things like osteoporosis just as you age.
Mhm.
So vitamins and minerals like vitamin D and calcium together are really important. Another thing I'd recommend is magnesium. Magnesium is really good for sleep, stress, muscle relaxation. So you can find a lot of those in more like nuts, seeds, legumes, leafy vegetables. You're going to
Yeah.
find more magnesium in those places. And another example of maybe a a micronutrient could be something like iron. A lot of people are low in iron. It's pretty intense.
Mhm.
So a lot of younger women are
Oh, yeah.
deficient in iron and they don't even know it. So that could be something that's really helpful as well.
Okay, I love all of that. So before we wrap up, what's one final piece of advice you'd give someone looking for a lasting change in the way that they eat?
I thought of this earlier when you were talking, and the word is abundance. When we have an abundance mindset, we are more likely to try new things, take risks, and really have a mindset in terms of growth and development and opportunity. So when you're able to adjust your mindset for health, you are going to be able to reach those goals that you're striving towards.
Mhm. And I agree with that. And the one thing you said is when you change your mind, when you start making the change in your mind, because people can tell you all day long, like, you should eat this and you should do that, but you're going to have to want to do it in order for you to reach your goal. And so, like she said before, you change your way of thinking, think of the word abundance, get your accountability partner, and just start one bite at a time. That's how I would say it. Agree, disagree?
Great. I love that.
Alexandra, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and insights with us today. I really appreciate everything that you advised to us about eating healthier. And I feel very inspired by talking to you, and I hope our listeners do too. So, where can people find you when they want to learn more from you?
Please follow me at Alexandra the Nutritionist on Instagram. Also, you can find me on LinkedIn, Alexandra Brown, and we can connect there. And then you can find all of my resources and we can just connect and yeah, follow me and I'll follow you back.
Yes. And also, you can find Alexandra on therisershub.com as well. And if you need a list of good foods to eat, go to therisershub.com/resources and go to nutrition, and you can download your copy of that list we were talking about. Remember, healthy eating is a journey, and it doesn't have to be overwhelming. Take it one bite at a time and find what works for you. If you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. And until next time, keep rising. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. To learn more about the Risers Hub, check us out at therisershub.com or follow us on Instagram or TikTok at The Risers Hub. This podcast is meant for both education and entertainment purposes only. I am not a licensed therapist, so it's crucial to consult your physician, psychotherapist, or qualified health professionals. Until next time, and as always, take care and keep rising. If you're enjoying this podcast, I would like to ask you to please subscribe, like, and share. I mean, that's what they told me to say. So can you hook a girl up? Thanks. Bye.